Support for Seattle Now comes from the Pacific Northwest Waterways Association with the Columbia Snake River System, providing clean energy and sustainable commerce as Washington aims for carbon neutrality by 2030. Learn more at pnwa.net/rivervalues.
Hey, it's Patricia Murphy. It's Thursday, and this is Seattle Now. When marine mammals in Puget Sound get sick or injured, there hasn't been a nearby hospital for those critters to get treated. Well, that's about to change. In a minute, we'll find out why so many animals are getting hurt on our local waters and how this new hospital is stepping up to help. But first, let's get you caught up. Some good news for state lawmakers as they grapple with a gaping hole in the state budget. More economic activity has led to more tax revenue, and the projected $8.8 billion shortfall over the next 3 years is now expected to be half that much. That's according to the Washington Economic and Revenue Forecast Council. Their latest prediction now shows a shortfall over the next 2 years of $2.3 billion. There's a new outbreak of COVID-19 on Greek Row at the University of Washington. 13 members of a fraternity tested positive as of Tuesday. So far, it's a small fraction of the cases Greek Row saw this summer. Today, the university is launching a new testing program for students, faculty, and staff. And the Asian giant hornets, also known as murder hornets, could devastate Washington's honeybee population if, quote, aggressive action isn't taken to stop their spread. That's according to a new study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. The hornets are currently in the introduction phase, which means there aren't any active nests, apparently. And the concern is that once they are established, they could decimate honeybees and local insects. The Washington State Department of Agriculture is looking for help to identify hornets. If you see one, they want to know about it. You can fill out a form on their website. The first marine wildlife hospital in Washington is gearing up to open. It's called SR3. Sea Life Response, Rehab, and Research. The nonprofit facility is just south of Seattle, and it will shorten the ride for sick seal pups, sea lions, and other ocean critters. Right now, those animals have to endure a 15-hour road trip all the way to Northern California. And as the population here has grown, that means more animals are getting injured. Casey Mclean is a veterinary nurse and the executive director of SR3. Casey, thanks a lot for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
So what made you want to lead this effort?
Well, I have to be honest. I can't say I always wanted to lead the effort. I wanted someone to do it. But I learned quickly that when you start saying someone should do something, people start saying, well, maybe you should do it. So, it's just always been a passion of mine. I went to school for marine biology. Even when I was a little kid, other than being a mermaid, I always wanted to be a marine biologist. So it's just what was always in my heart. And when I saw the critical gap that was here for these animals that were suffering or sick or injured, I thought, we can do better. And I think people here want to see it done better.
Okay, tell me a little bit about your setup. What does your facility look like?
We have a 14,000 square foot space here where we have a modular building that's been put on the site that serves as our hospital unit. So there's a surgery and treatment room in that building. And most importantly, there is a food prep kitchen for the animals. So that's where really all the action in these kinds of facilities takes place. That's the hub for everything. You feed, you clean, you feed, you clean. And then outside is where the animals recuperate. We have 2 pools. One is a 12x4 and one is an 8x4. And this is where the animals spend their time getting ready to go back out to the ocean.
Tell me what kind of care you're anticipating they'll need.
Yeah, so the animals come to us with a wide variety of problems. Everything from, they were found really skinny and maybe mom was eaten by an orca, or mom was hit by a boat, or humans scared her off and she abandoned the pup. So they just need to be fattened up and sent back out to the ocean. We also have other animals that arrive that have some sort of complex disease process going on that could be due to toxins or other things that are in the ocean. We have animals that arrive that are entangled in fishing gear or fishing line or something of that nature that need a little bit longer term care for those wounds to heal. So there's all kinds of reasons we see these animals. And sometimes, to be honest with you, there's animals that show up that we don't know exactly what happened. but we're able to help them heal and go back out.
Okay, so top of mind marine life for me that I'm thinking about you might see would be like seals and otters and maybe the occasional sea lion. What else is out there in Puget Sound that would come through your facility?
Yeah, well, here's one that'll shock you. What about a sea turtle?
Come on now. See, that's a Hawaii thing for me. I wouldn't think it's too warm here. It's not warm enough for sea turtles here.
That's what I always love to shock people with, is we do have sea turtles that are off the coast of Washington. They have typically followed some sort of warm water current up. And what happens in the fall and the winter is they get pushed inland closer to shore where the water is really cold. And as you just mentioned, sea turtles like to be warm, about 70 to 80 degrees water. Ours is about 50 to 55. And it's too cold for them. So they get what's called cold stunned, and they kind of go what I call limp noodle turtle. They just don't do anything. They float at the surface. They wind up on the beaches in need of immediate medical care. And so we'll be able to help those turtles as well. But of course, like you mentioned, there's sea otters. We could even help something up to 2,000 pounds like a sea lion or even a small porpoise or a dolphin.
So once an animal arrives at the hospital, how do you triage them? What's that process look like?
Yeah, so much like if you went into an emergency clinic with your dog or cat or something, we're going to take all those vital signs that we can. Sometimes they're a little bit different, but we're looking at temperature. We're taking blood work. We might do some x-rays, listen to their heart and their lungs. So all the same kinds of care for what you would think of with your cat or dog. It does get a little bit tricky because these are wild animals, so you can't treat them like your cat or dog. So there's a little bit of specialty knowledge that goes into this, which is why SR3 actually hired a marine mammal veterinarian so that, they have the experience and the knowledge to be able to treat these animals because they are quite different.
I'm curious about changes in injuries that you have seen to the animals coming in your time doing this work. What have you noticed?
Me personally, I've definitely have noticed a lot more human interaction cases. So whether that be a dog bite or a gunshot wound, that has definitely increased in my time in this field.
You mean someone shooting an animal, a marine animal?
Yes, and we do see a fair bit of that here in Washington, unfortunately, typically due to perceived competition in the fisheries. So other things I think that I've seen increase that always kind of takes you by surprise is the plastic ingestion. Obviously, a lot of times those animals, when we're doing a necropsy or like an autopsy is when we discover that. So just seeing the increase in that, even if it's not the immediate cause of death, still just finding that stuff in these animals is just proof of how bad that's getting.
Yeah. And what does this tell you about where we're headed and the impact it's having on this marine population?
Yeah, and I think that's why people have started to care more about these animals is we're coming to the realization that they are indicators for ocean health. They are at the top of the food chain, and so we may notice when a lot more of these animals get sick versus when maybe a bunch of crabs get sick or fish or something. So they're our first alert system, and it's really telling us that we have got to make some serious and immediate changes to really not only preserve their health and the environment, but also our own.
You said some of the work that you do is because of human intervention. And this weekend we were out on the water stand-up paddleboarding, and we were over by Golden Gardens, and there was a small seal pup sitting on one of the rocks all by itself. And my paddleboarding partner said, maybe it's injured. Maybe we should do something. I said, I don't think we're supposed to touch those seal pups. And we paddled along, but it kind of, should I have called someone? I think it was probably okay. It just looked a little sleepy, but we wondered where the mom was. Is that common? Did we do the right thing?
You did do the right thing. Actually, this time of year, that's extremely common. We're in what we call weaning season. So what people don't realize, because these animals look so small, is that harbor seals only spend about 4 weeks with their mom. And then she gives them the boot, and they're on their own. So we have had people that have picked harbor seals up with good intention, but really it was not what was best for the animal.
Okay, so that is one thing I can do, is leave the harbor seals alone, the pups alone, even though they're cute. What else can people do to be stewards if they want to help?
Yeah, I think one thing you can also do is put the Stranding Network hotline number in your phone so that if you do come across an animal that you're concerned is injured, or, if you'd seen that harbor seal and said, well, I just want to know, at least you can call and get the right information before you take action on anything. So I think that's really important. But as far as things you can do to protect marine animals in your own home, a lot of people like to talk about recycling. I like to talk about refusing. Anytime you can, refuse that plastic. Clean with green cleaners or, things that are environmentally friendly as much as you can. And those might seem like small things, but if you've seen the billboard that says it's just one straw, said 8 million people, it truly adds up. So don't take those things lightly. Those are things that you're doing that help marine animals.
Casey Mclean is a veterinary nurse and executive director at SR3 Sea Life Response, Rehab, and Research, a nonprofit dedicated to the welfare of Pacific Northwest marine wildlife. Casey, great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I appreciate it.
SR3 is expected to open in the next couple of months. And that stranding hotline number to pop into your phone, it's 1-866-767-6114. Seattle Now is produced by Clare McGrane, Andy Hurst, Sophie Reed, Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, and Jason Pagano. Matt Jorgensen does our music. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you tomorrow. Hey, I'm Patricia Murphy, host of KUOW's Seattle Now podcast. KUOW and NPR rely on the support of listeners to keep you up to date on facts, tell important stories, and hold our leaders accountable. If you value this service, help us meet our fall fundraising goal by pitching in any amount before September 30th. Use the link in the show notes to make your gift. Thanks.